We did a deep dive of various core ideas and tried to touch upon some esoteric aspects of Bhagavad Gita. And we by no means did cover every verse, every chapter in depth. However, as you might have realized by now, that Bhagavad Gita is a book which needs years and years of study. Even a lifetime may not be sufficient. Since all esoteric works, it has seven keys, and each is related to each plane of consciousness. Each key needs to be turned seven times. Then we need to also understand the occult meaning of each of the characters in the Bhagavad Gita, and this meaning also is contextual. Even though we can logically group the chapters into three groups of six each, or six groups of three each, or nine of two, etc., applying various approaches. But we saw that each chapter is connected and has correlations to other chapters. In short, all chapters are connected. So, in this manner, all the yogas and all the devotional techniques provided are also connected, which means, in practical terms, we cannot isolate one yoga or devotional technique and implement it to achieve our goal. At the end, it is the whole which we need to understand and live accordingly. In this meeting, we will try again to touch upon few core ideas, teachings, and concepts provided in Bhagavad Gita. This so-called summary or essence of Bhagavad Gita is actually by no means complete, since in this short span of 1 hour, we cannot summarize everything. It just provides the students a guideline, an outline, and some direction. Each one of us has to put in sincere effort to understand the Bhagavad Gita based on our capacity and capability. Only then, slowly, with time, over this life or many lives, we will be able to get the complete meaning. However, the good part is as soon as we understand even a little bit, we can immediately start applying it to our lives and make our life and the lives of others around us better and better. In this talk, there are very subtle ideas which we will touch upon, which cannot be elaborated since it is a summary. Hence, we need to focus and listen properly. The Now the main goal of Bhagavad Gita, which is both the book of yoga and devotion, is to come out of suffering. Now, both happiness and sorrow is actually suffering in this illusionary world. But we should be very careful and apply the teachings of Bhagavad Gita right here itself, that we should not be attached to the end goal of attaining liberation and also not attached to the action itself. Once we understand this end goal, then we need to perform it as a duty unattached. Whether we get liberation or not doesn't matter. Only the honest performance of duty matters. You have no duty other than to realize the higher self in this very birth. Know this and lift yourself, is what Krishna said. So, once we are clear that our main intent, and each one of us has to look deep inside, that our main intent is to be better able to help and teach others, to act for and as the self of all. And then, in order to do that, we need to achieve liberation while in body. That is, become a Jivan Mukta. And not have any attachment to the attaining of liberation itself or to the fact of becoming better able to help and teach others itself. Now, one important thing is that if we carefully think, it is the mind itself, our mind itself, which is actually going through all the experiences. But even before that, we have seen that all our principles and vehicles are temporary. And we have also realized that at the end of death, or after death, the lower quaternary is no more. It's just the higher triad. So, what is permanent is Atman, and Atman is a ray of Paramatman. We know this. This is the yoga of self and non-self, one of the very important yogas. So one needs to have a clear realization of this. When I say realization, is not theoretical. It's one has to cogitate, meditate, and understand this. Who am I is something which we need to really focus upon. Now the question may arise, if I am the Atman who is never born or shall never die, then who takes birth? We need to carefully think about this. It is the mind. Mind is experiencing and realizing various experiences and through various situations. And these realizations are stored life after life in the Karana Sharira, that is in the Sutratma. So all our life and everything is actually happening in the mind alone, from birth till death. And if you really see, mind is the Raja of senses, and all our senses, taste, touch, eye, hearing, smell, and so on and so forth, are nothing but extensions of the mind itself. And in order to sustain this, we have the whole body. So, mind is what projects a dream in sleep state. Similarly, mind projects our whole life in the so called waking state, which Adi Shankacharya has also mentioned is a dream. So, Jagrat, waking, Swapna, sleep, both are actually a dream or an illusion. When the projections or the vrittis of the mind stop or subside, we are in a Shushupti state. But the substratum of all these states in which these arise and in which these subside again is the only reality, which is the fourth, Turiya. That is the state of the Atman, the witness consciousness. Hence, the ultimate reality or the ultimate truth is that everything is Maya except the Paramartha Satya, which is that Brahman, Parabrahman. And we are that Atman, the ray of Parabrahman, that is Brahman, or the unthinkable, the unspeakable. We are in reality the witness. We are one with all. We are pure consciousness. We were actually never born. And since we were never born, we shall never die. This is not, this is a fact, but we should not just theoretically understand. These are seed thoughts we need to meditate upon and realize. But what is stopping us from realizing this? Because it is not somewhere outside there, it is inside in us. And this is our true reality. But why are we not able to see this? Why is it so difficult? Because we realize that like we saw in our discussions, it is the knot in the heart, karma, tanha, that is yearning for earth life, and skandhas, that is our past life impressions, tendencies, or vasanas. They all pull us back again and again to take birth in a human womb. We are cooked in the heat of our mother's womb for 9 months, living in all kinds of fluids, suffering. And then we come out in the world crying. And then we get deluded that we are this body. We get attached to this body and the things around us. Skandhas come to play, and we are caught up in the desires. And to achieve the desired objects, we keep creating karma. Thus, in this manner, we keep suffering life after life. Now, let us try to understand this. See, the Atman is one pure light, pure consciousness. It is the ray of Paramatman or Parabrahman, the unthinkable, the unspeakable. Now, In nature, that is, there is always this combination of Purusha and Prakriti when there is manifestation. So, when the manifested world sort of kicks off or starts, Prakriti has different layers or gradations of Prakriti, from the subtle to the gross. Each layer of Prakriti has got gunas. When Mula Prakriti or Devi Prakriti is there, when Prakriti is in its subtlest state, when it is not agitated, then there are no gunas in it. When the one ray strikes in the macrocosm as per the periodical cycle, that one ray agitates the Prakriti and the gunas arise, and the differentiation from subtle plane to the gross plane arise. This is in the macrocosm. In the microcosm also similarly it happens because both reflect each other. So the first layer of differentiation is buddhic upadhi, vehicle. When the light of Atman reflects in the first layer of Prakriti in the microcosm, the reflected light is the buddhic principle. Now, still, Atman is very subtle and beyond Prakriti. Buddhi is the first layer of Prakriti, but then Buddhi is also quite beyond the actual Prakriti to contact nature or the Prakriti or experience. So the light of Buddhi then reflects in the next layer of differentiation, which is the Manasik Upadhi. The reflected light in the Manasik Upadhi becomes the Manasik principle, and so on and so forth. But we'll stop here because Manas is what we need to focus upon. So when the light of Atman reflects in the Manasik Upadhi, the original state of mind is pure. It reflects Atman. Only, let's say, the Buddhi, let's say this is one mirror. The light of sun comes, reflects this mirror. From there, this mirror, you change the angle in such a way that it reflects in another mirror. So in this second mirror also, you will see the same sun, but maybe the photons or the energy may reduce, but it is the same light which is reflecting in this medium also. Now, it is we need to understand that each layer, because it has got gunas, and over many lives, each layer of this Prakriti, the first layer, the Buddhic, the second, the Manasik Upadhi, has got skandhas, vasanas, tendencies, heaps, aggregates, all are synonyms. And because of that, it gets colored, it gets muddy, it gets dirty. Various ways to understand, or the light gets obscured. So these skandhas need to be depolarized, attuned, purified. That is the main process what Bhagavad Gita is helping us to. Once that is done, pure light of Atma shines in Buddhi, pure light of Atma shines in Manas. HPV says in the Secret Doctrine, for Buddhi, the Anandamaya Kosha is but a mirror which reflects absolute bliss. And moreover, that reflection itself is yet not free from ignorance and is not the Supreme Spirit, being subject to conditions, being a spiritual modification of Prakriti and an effect. Atma alone is the one real and eternal substratum of all, the essence and absolute knowledge, the Kshetrajna. It is called in esoteric philosophy the one witness, and that is what we are. Once we come out of our delusion, we realize that this we have been always been the witness. Now, Bhagavad Gita in many shlokas also points out to this thing that the manas, which is actually one, because it is sort of reflected, it is having a higher aspect, which is the buddhi manasic aspect, which is it is because it is near to buddhi, and it has the kama manasic aspect because it is near to kama. The whole story of our life from childhood till death happens here in the mind. And this is, as we all know, is antaskarana also, a different word. As antaskarana means the inner instrument. Now, this part, the kama manasik part, keeps running towards desires, tanha, and the buddhi manasika aspect is which is the bird sitting up. This is a lower bird, this is the upper bird, which we have seen. The lower bird keeps running towards the fruit, the upper bird sits quietly. This is the whole idea where the lower bird starts to listen to the upper bird. Only then the actual guidance is provided, and only then the purpose of life is realized, and only then the monad or the jiva or the jivatma starts to raise the lower self by the higher self, and then to raise the lower by the higher, and the higher here it's the higher manas, in fact, or the buddhi manas, is raised by the eternal, that is the atma or the buddhi atma or the monad. So that is what is actually happening by the or needs to be practically implemented by the teachings of Bhagavad Gita and even other devotional books like Light on the Path and Voice of Silence. Now, a very important thing which is happening is in this where we live all our life, original state is pure reflected light of Atman. But the moment the mind focuses on any object or an object is arises, that means a vritti arises. Vritti is a modification. So think of your mind as a pure sort of electromagnetic field, or maybe think of it as a pond also. The moment an object is introduced or a stone is thrown in the pond, there are repercussion or waves. A moment an external object is brought into this electromagnetic field, the electromagnetic field vibration changes. So there is a vritti. But that is not, we are not able to observe it unless the light of the Atman is reflected on that. And we have seen that there is a problem, because the side effect which happens is that the moment this happens, it gives to rise to the idea of Jivatma or the notion of I. I am thinking, I am observing, and the delusion occurs, and the ahamkara arises, the ego arises, and we realize that in fact we forget that we are the witness, and we think we are the mind, or I am the thinker, or I am this body, and that's where we slip. So this happens in all states except in Shushupti, as we see, because there the mind doesn't have any object. So it is like a dark black room. In a dark black room, even if you have lights and no objects, the lights are not able to reflect anything. So nothing exists. It's pin drop silence. So if this mind is the instrument for us to know Atman, to know the higher self, if this mind itself is the instrument to know the truth about life, the purpose about life, and everything is happening in the mind, then we have to be very careful of this mind. If we are able to have a very nice, top quality, the most appropriate instrument, then we will be able to know the truth immediately. We will be able to realize or understand the nature of Atman and the purpose of life immediately. So we have to purify this instrument. We have to make this instrument, tune this instrument as much as we can. That is where Bhagavad Gita says Chitta Shuddhi is important. And in the Viveka Chudamani, this shloka we have, 181, which says, therefore the mind must be diligently purified by one who seeks liberation. When the mind has been purified, liberation becomes as readily available as a fruit in one's hand. So this is very important, because the moment you are able to purify your mind, remove the vasanas, the skandhas, the impressions, and make it a most appropriate vessel, the light of Atman is already shining. It will You will be able to see that. You will be able to realize it. So the gunas in the mind, along with the skandhas, create the illusion of I, the false idea of the doer. Our sole duty is to purify ourselves and make the sattva guna predominant in our nature. That is, cleanse the 49 fires. So this is with respect to cleaning all the seven principles. But the main first principle which need to be cleansed, and that is the most important, is the manas. Until then, no amount of listening to the scriptures or reading 100 books or brainstorming will be of any avail. This is because real knowledge, jnana, can be absorbed only in sattva guna. Only sattvic devotees are able to decree the truth and retain the realizations. Only sattvic people will have the experience of samadhi when they meditate. Hence, it is of the highest importance for all of us to perform the purification to develop sattva guna. So, this sattva guna is all related to the manas. Hence, mind purification, chitta shuddhi. How to do that? Bhagavad Gita says karma yoga, performance of duty. Performance of duty every moment of our life without attachment to the action and without attachment to the fruits of those actions. Even if we do not perform it properly, we may fail, but the sincere act of performance of duty itself is a purifier. In order to perform it properly, we need to do abhyasa, that is repetition, again and again, repetition. While doing that repetition again and again, we should have vairagya, complete detachment, not theoretically, not forcefully, with knowledge, with realization, with contemplation. We realize the temporary nature of everything in this whole world, whether relations, whether this body, whether possessions, everything is temporary. Only performance of duty matters. There is no need of attaining anything in this life uh, except performance of duty. Higher thoughts, 24 by 7, always keeping the mind on higher thoughts. Bhakti yoga, always having devotion. And we have seen the 9 stages of Bhakti yoga. I'll not get into that. But these are very important. And then something which we do not think about much and take it lightly is the right food. What Bhagavad Gita also mentions and other scriptures also mention is that when the mind is sufficiently pure, jnanam arises. How does the mind become pure? It becomes pure with the ahara, the food. When food is pure, mind becomes pure because food also has 7 aspects to it. Like we are sevenfold, the macrocosm is sevenfold, everything inside the macrocosm is also sevenfold. Food is also sevenfold. The seventh aspect of food is, uh, or rather, the fifth aspect of food is equivalent to the subtle aspect of manas. So when the food, what we eat, the fifth aspect of food provides nutrition to the mind, and whatever experiences we have, whatever realizations we have, in order for them to be retained, we need sattvic qualities of the mind. In order, so whatever experience you get becomes stable. Otherwise, it will not be retained. Since the sattvic element is needed to hold that anubhava or the experience to become part of our soul memory, that is soul reminiscence. And that is also mentioned in the chapter 1, Sutra 11 of Patanjali Yoga Aphorisms. That whatever realizations we are having, we need not lose it, even though it is stored automatically in our Sutra Adma, but we need to be conscious of that. In, in order to become conscious of them, we need a pure instrument. In order to have a pure instrument, we need to have the sattvic food. Then, also from Viveka Chudamani, with reference to this, we have in the shloka, action is for purification of mind and not for the realization of truth. Many people think that we are performing action for the realization of truth, but it is not so. The truth is known by means of inquiry and not by means of even crores or millions of actions. While actions cannot result in liberation, when done in a spirit of dedication to God without expectations of fruits, they purify the mind. Among the four kinds of actions, obligatory, regular, occasional actions are the ones that should be done. Only he whose mind is pure is fit to tread the path of knowledge. One should become pure minded through proper performance of one's duties in the right spirit, resort to the Guru, hear the truth, reflect upon it through reasoning, steadfastly meditate upon it, and thereby realize the truth and become liberated. So, this is what is important. And Bhagavad Gita also mentions that there is no purifier in this world to be compared to spiritual knowledge. And he who is perfect in devotion findeth spiritual knowledge. So, we see how the bhakti yoga is also working in parallel, and how we need to restrain our senses and our organs, and so on and so forth. So many things work in tandem. We had also seen about the supreme purifier. The absolute only one is the one everlasting cause behind everything, and it is itself uncaused, unborn. It is because of it that anything and everything is known to our consciousness. So the light of Atman, or the light of Paramatman, is shining through all principles, and that is because of which everything is working in us and in the macrocosm. It is the light of lights. It is neither the waking nor dreaming nor deep sleep. It is the fourth, as we have seen. Then Shloka 3, 11, and 21 of chapter 8 of Bhagavad Gita mention about the imperishable, the supreme. It is that imperishable goal which the knowers of Veda declare, which the self-controlled and passion-free enter. So we need to, this is our goal, it's the supreme goal. The ultimate goal is the Atman itself, which we are itself. So the self is looking for the self is walking on the path reaching to the self. It is called the unmanifest, the imperishable. That is the final goal. Having reached, none return. That unmanifest dimension is the supreme goal, and upon reaching it, one never returns to this mortal world. That is my supreme abode. So the goal is to reach that supreme abode, that state of consciousness. And we have also seen how the purification of every principle is important, because if it is not purified, they are not attuned properly. The vibration of each vehicle is not appropriate for receiving the most pure light of Atman. So, ultimate purification. The true cleansing of body and mind is the renunciation of body and mind by non identification and non attachment with them. Bhagavad Gita mentions about renunciation, but the highest renunciation, if we see, it's not about the fruits of actions. It is by non-identification and non-attachment with not only the fruits of actions, but with the body and mind and all our instruments also. And this is a realization which is very important. We need to think day, every night, every moment of our life, how we are none of these principles or upadhis or vehicles. They do not belong to us. They are provided by nature on loan. So just let them be. We need to rest in the self. There is no feeling of I in the body. The hands, legs, liver, organs do not say I. The sense of I arises from some other center. We need not separate the I from the body. It is ever separated. This knowledge is sama, equanimity. Once we really realize this, then peace, equanimity arises. The desires dissipate. To think you are associated with the body is the greatest delusion. And HPB says we are deceiving ourselves every moment. When we rest in ourself, that is the Atman, the witness state, that is Venus. So what we have to do, we have to dehypnotize ourselves. When the non-self, that is the body and everything except the Atman, is renounced, the ever attained self is revealed, then we become awake. The personality I has no reality. It is just an idea. We need to think about this. We need to meditate upon this. Only the self is real. This knowledge is true sannyasa, renunciation. Whatever forms we see or whatever thoughts arises in us, know that everything is temporary, made of that one non-dual consciousness alone, which is the reality. All else is Maya. The entire page 200 diagram also on the macrocosmic side, if you see, HPB says it is Mahamaya. The first step is being free of the body. In being free of the body is to know I am not the body. The next step is to know this body is not mine. It is given on loan by Mother Nature. And the third and final step is to know that there is, in fact, no body. It's just an illusion, just a dream. And we need to become a gunatita, a sthita pragna, as Bhagavad Gita says. As long as we remain identified with the personality body, the gunas cannot be transcended. As long as we consider ourselves the body, whether we do good deeds, evil deeds, or remain neutral, we are still always in bondage. We must simply give up the body by dissociating from it, become quiet, still completely unattached. Then and only then we can go beyond the body. All desires and passions lie in the body only, and and with the false notion of I. So we need to die. That is, kill the personality. While we are in the body, in the sense, have no effect by the gunas and remain focused as the witness, completely desireless and unattached. In this manner only, we can cheat death. Then we are no longer of this world while we are in this world. Our own existence as awareness, as consciousness is realization. In fact, realization has already happened to us. We already are aware of it. But we are deluded. We are actually the consciousness, awareness. Now itself we are conscious and aware. That itself is a true nature. We just need to be, we just need to dehypnotize ourselves. Remove the ignorance that constantly says that it has to be something new, we need to achieve something, we need to attain something, we need liberation. We are in reality already that. So that illusion must go. All this while we are continuously deluding ourselves due to this ignorance. So by contemplating on the teachings of Gita and getting this knowledge, we need to wake up from the sleep of ignorance and recognize that we all are already that. We are aware of it always as I-ness, which is not associated with any body or guna, but it is one with all. So how do we practically apply? So we have seen that we cannot achieve Chitta Shuddhi from day one. But in this journey, from day one, based on the foundation of Karma Yoga and propelled by Bhakti Yoga, we can perform Raj Yoga and Jnana Yoga. So from day one, we may not be able to perform it perfectly. That's okay. But if we start in this manner, over time, slowly and steadily, we will achieve Chitta Shuddhi and we will be able to perform all these yogas most appropriate. But another important element is there which is very crucial, which is the complete surrender. And that happens by when we renounce the egoistic will and surrender to Krishna, the higher self, with complete abandon, non attachment. And this is the final teaching of Gita. Surrender is indeed the highest human goal. In that absolute cleansing, the experience of true samadhi happens. When a true seeker, we have seen mumukshu, a true seeker has intense desire or thirst for truth. And when that particular seeker arrives and tries to work towards realization, the Lord will ensure that favorable situations are there that will make him capable of surrendering to the higher power manifest. So automatically, the higher self will provide you such situations where you are able to surrender yourself, provided you have that intense, true desire to be better able to help and teach others. We have seen that individual spirit of Purusha is said to be the cause of experiencing pain and pleasure through the connection with nature found in the instrument. For spirit, when invested in matter or Prakriti, experiences the qualities that proceed from Prakriti. Its connection with these qualities and self identification with them is the cause of rebirth in good and evil wombs. So, we need to remove self identification, attachment, dissolve the desires, ambitions, and perform our duty as we have seen. If in this world a person knows the self, then the true end is gained. If a person in this world doesn't know the self, that is the higher self, then there will be great calamity. The wise man is afraid of nothing once he knows the Supreme Self. He who knows Brahman is Brahman itself. So we need to attune ourselves. And we know that the cosmos has seven states and man has seven states. So if both the seven states of man and cosmos are aligned, then we attune ourselves. And we have seen, HPB has mentioned that we need to awaken the three seats of life and activity. But during this journey, when we are performing these yogas, we need to completely focus 24 by 7 on Krishna, the higher self. That is, be in the witness consciousness. How do we do that? Bhagavad Gita says there has to be complete, continuous absorption, fine tuning, aligning, attunement continuously. So, our initial state is here. In the initial state, the mind has three different substates. Kshipta, engrossed in objects under the influence of likes and dislikes. We are always running towards likes and dislikes. Mudha, overcome by drowsiness. Vikshipta, even though we are engrossed in objects under the influence of likes and dislikes, we push ourselves because we have got some knowledge and occasionally we engage in dhyana. That is, we focus our mind towards the higher self. But Lord Krishna has mentioned in various slokas and verses that we have to continuously focus our mind always on the higher self, on Krishna, and perform our duties and live our life as a worldly man. But our mind should be always on Krishna. So once we are Vikshipta, and most of us come in the category of Vikshipta where we are stuck with likes and dislikes, but occasionally our mind goes towards Lord Krishna. From there starts dharana, leads to dhyana and samadhi. And through this journey, chitta shuddhi is also happening. Then we reach a stage of sampragnata samadhi, which is a shuddha sattvic state where a bija is there. A bija could be pranava or the with a form or formless. And we have seen there are two ways, form and formless. And then when that bija is also removed, then the removing of that bija is being unattached to that bija. That kind of yoga is known as asparsha yoga, where there is no seer or the seen. The seer, seen, and the object become one. That is asampragnata samadhi. And from there, Bhagavad Gita says in chapter 6, the highest state of samadhi which one can reach and should reach in their life is dharma mega samadhi, which is completely beyond gunas. We become one with all. That is, one becomes a gunadita or sthita prajna. Meditation is to bring the mind to the now, not allowing it to go either to the past or future. Past is memory, future is imagination. Now is no mind, it is pure awareness. So we all are aware of it now itself. This pure awareness can be accessed anytime. With constant focus and attention, we need to maintain the mind in pure state of I am that. I am that witness consciousness. And make it stay in that awareness while living our life and performing our duties desireless and unattached. While we do that over the life, we will work through all these virtues dana, shila, kshanti, vairagya, virya, dhyana, and prajna. And everything, as we said, is happening in the mind. So the seven parameters, seven initiations, seven sounds, seven portals. So the entire voice of silence is happening in the mind itself. And then finally, we see that while doing this, initially when we start, we associate ourselves with the body. I am Mr. X or Miss Y or whatever. And then we raise our consciousness by the knowledge of Gita which is provided, and we have this I am I, which is working in the Kama Manasik level, because most of us are actually working on the Kama Manasik level. But that I am I, when we raise the self by the self, that is the higher mind here, it reaches the Buddhi Manasik aspect, and the level of awareness, the I am awareness, becomes I am I. And then from there, when we raise by the eternal, it is a two-step process. At the level of Buddhi, it becomes I am. And then at the level of Atma becomes I-ness, beingness of self-consciousness. So this is the state where we need to reach while we are in this body. The one self animates all forms of every kind. That the sustaining power as well as the perceiving power is with each and every form. So that one self is in everything, animate, inanimate. And once we reach that state of I-ness, you see Krishna or the higher self or that in everything, whether animate or inanimate. We all are that one self, one pure consciousness. This is the final truth. And in this journey, we have seen, for with every effort of will towards purification in unity with that, one of the lower rays breaks. So this is lot of hope. Every small effort, one lower ray breaks. So nothing goes wasted. The spiritual entity of man is drawn higher and ever higher to the ray that supersedes the first, until from ray to ray, the inner man is drawn into the one, the highest being of the Atman or the Paramatma. We have seen various levels of self-realization. I will not go into this, but gradually one gets the clarity that any outward experience, however grand it may be, arises and vanishes. Everything is temporary. Then only the recognition of the ever-attained beingness is needed to attain liberation. When that recognition dawns in us, then the I vanishes once and for all. Now, the question is, once the I is permanently erased, then who remains to take rebirth? We need to think about this. As the ego is the source of all doubts, when the doubter itself is erased, all doubts end. This is the highest spiritual attainment. We also saw about the spiritual will. I'll not go into this because we have already studied this. So, we should take life seriously to perform our duties. However, do not take it personally. Always be unattached. And finally, lead the life necessary for the acquisition of such knowledge and powers, and wisdom will come to you naturally. Thank you.